We are live. Good evening. I'm Mira Halpert and my husband Mark Halpert. We're directors and founders of the 3D Learner program. We're here to talk to you this evening about helping your right brain kinesthetic visual learner improve reading comprehension that will in turn reduce anxiety and ignite that love for learning. We are just seeing too many kids that are just way too frustrated and way too anxious. And yeah, learning is just not fun. What can you say, Mark?
I need some help here. Okay, good. I can't control it, so go for it.
Okay.
Okay. Lots of places look at children and they define them as dyslexic or having executive function issues, or maybe being right brain or kinesthetic learning, or having visual or auditory processing issues. In fact, most of the kids we see have a multitude of
All of
issues.
it.
And actually, the center should actually be about half of our students. Okay.
Should be
So
really.
anybody who tries to attack one of these set skills is leaving a lot else on the sidelines. And we actually define most of the kids we see as a right brain visual or kinesthetic learner because it's more empowering to be defined by your strength. We acknowledge the dyslexia, the visual processing, the executive function issues. But what makes them who they are is their ability to learn best when they see and experience information.
Right. And you see the anxiety, frustration is just sort of everywhere around it. It's that white space. And the truth is, when we hear from so many parents that may call us after they've been to so many other programs and they're like, I had my kid for years doing these other things. They're frustrated. I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to get them anywhere else, but they haven't really made any progress. And I guess Mark said before, if you're only working on one process, look how absolutely interrelated all of this is. Now we've contacted the colors, the words, but that's really what's going on for these kids. There's just so much. And where do you start? Well,
And
you
one
do.
of the things that people say is dyslexia, for instance, is not a vision issue, but it turns out with the visual learners, about 77% of them have a visual processing issue. So it really doesn't matter what term you use. You need to look at the whole child if you're going to help your child be all they can be. And really, that's what differentiates 3D Learner is we look at the whole child, and our goal is to help every parent we come in contact with be informed, empowered, and proactive in helping your child succeed with their unique profile.
Right. So our job tonight is to be able to give you a few suggestions or strategies to be able to help on your road to success with your child at the very beginning. But first, we need to sort of understand. We need to understand what the risks and the opportunities, and maybe we'll put this the other way around, what the opportunities, but then the risks are. And you, as parents in the driver's seat, are the ones that are making this change. Let's be really honest. This has been a rough couple of years for everyone. Parents, we know you're exhausted. We know you've had to do absolutely everything. Teachers are also overwhelmed and they're being asked to do everything, not the least of which is that they're trying to be able to go back to the standards of where kids were 3 years ago. And I think we can all agree we're not the same that we were 3 years ago. And for our kids that are in elementary school, think about how really little they were when things just sort of started to fall apart. So for third graders, they were in kindergarten. For kids below that, they were in preschool. So they'd really just even getting back to the rigor of being in school all day and having to be able to be on and hear all those words when language may very well be a huge problem for them already. So they're struggling in school and on tests. They may be in the lowest reading groups or math groups. They're struggling in all classes. If you can imagine if you had a day like that all day long, how would you feel at the end of your school day when you want to be able to come home and the first thing you hear is, okay, we need to be able to go do something else that's more of the same of things that they've had all day long. The challenge becomes, as we showed you the diagram just before this, that if they're working on what we call splinter skills, which is just sort of one at a time, are they helpful? Absolutely, certainly. And they will make progress in that one piece. But the challenge becomes is if I'm really good at looking at the pattern and working out a worksheet, does that mean that when I see those words somewhere else in the middle of reading that I'm really going to understand what they're talking about?
And as
In
one
my
mom
experience,
said,
not
who
so
was a
much.
as one mom of a ninth grader said, I've been invested over $90,000 in various dyslexia treatments, and my child's reading comprehension is still 5 years below grade level. So, yes, we address the phonics and phonemic awareness issues, but our real focus is how do you get that comprehension up? How do you instill that love for learning while boosting self esteem and, in effect, lower and in the process, lowering anxiety?
Right. It's wonderful to be able to know that we've helped so many kids as we're and we've been doing this for a long time. So we have a lot of kids that are not only in but through college and adults and have kids of their own. But just hearing this last couple of weeks about kids that are applying to colleges that never would have thought that they would be going to amazing programs where they can excel in school, they're doing well on tests, they're in the right chat, they're in the right classes, they're being challenged, they're doing amazing out of the box kinds of uh, programs. They are amazing at doing community service work, and we're finding that the investments are paying off in ways that I think probably we had no idea. Kids are becoming pilots. Kids are building things. Kids are working with animals. It's quite remarkable to be able to be on the side of when that happens. And I know where so many of you parents are sitting right now. You're thinking that's just how is that remotely possible? Well, when we start to be able to look at our child's abilities and celebrate them, we're really quite lucky about the fact of, I'm going to say lucky, you're going to go, oh, no, Namira, that's not possible. But we are. If we start to be able to look at all the amazing discoveries, let's stop to think about who are the people that have made those discoveries by and large. Those are our kinesthetic, our brain, out of the box thinkers, right? And so many of them, which you'll shove a slide in a couple, in a few later about when you see the improvements of our everyday life of how those were changed by people that just didn't like the status quo. But we want to be able to help every child reach their potential. And we also want to be able to make it so that school is not every consuming everything about you as a parent's life and certainly your child's life. They need time and the abilities to be able to do the kinds of skills, whether it's sports or music or art or dance, to be able to have them do that after school, which is just pretty amazing. And let's look at the long haul. Can we do to be able to help them have long term results? And more than anything, how can we make this so that your family life can be so much more enjoyable that you guys all like love being able to be together and love learning together.
And by the way, when we talk about time and skills to not only do the sports and martial arts, we've had kids excel. We've had kids get scholarships in baseball and golf and swimming and basketball and football. Because when you do it the 3D learner way, you're not only improving the reading comprehension, igniting love for learning, you're also improving neural timing, you're improving visual processing, mental toughness. So you wind up getting that. Now, we realize that some people won't stay throughout the whole presentation. So we just wanted to make it clear that you get hold of us. We offer a no cost conversation, and the power of the conversation it can be transformational. You know, as one mom said, in 10 minutes, you knew my son better than people who knew him for years. And I knew you could make the difference. This young man wound up gaining 3 years in his reading comprehension in a year. He wound up making more progress than any kid his teacher had in 27 years of teaching. And it was all because mom saw him as a really bright kid who learns differently. And she wanted him to be all he could be.
We are here. We've been where you're sitting now, and we know the frustration, and we know you've just gone through the first quarter of school. Some of you are sitting with brand new reports and reports on some of the early testing, as well as report cards, wondering, what can I do? Give us a call. We're happy to talk to you about it with no commitments needed. But we've been where you are, and there's certainly lots more options today than there ever were before.
Okay. In terms of the keys to success for these bright right brain, visual and kinesthetic learners. Okay, it's recognized that most smart, struggling students are these kids. Okay, and that if you identify, embrace, and capitalize on what they're good at, it's
Right.
far easier to engage them. But it's equally important to identify and address their challenges. Okay, and it's interesting. We talk about an integrated, engaging, and effective program works well because, as one mom said, the optometrist said it was going to take 36 sessions, but we wound up accomplishing those goals in 18 because we were working on left and right brain integration and other skills that helped make both programs work
And
quicker and more effectively.
and language and experiential, as we all know, right? How many times have we heard in conversations from parents that, well, my kid really loves doing something when they're engaged or when they want to be able to do it. They're just stubborn. Well, the truth is, they have a picture in their head about the way they think something should be. And when you can engage them at that level about where things that they can do, yes, we will show you. It is a true spiral.
Okay,
It is a spiral of
one of the
success.
things to make a point on before we go back, what we're talking about, the dyslexia side of the equation is sometimes is addressed at schools, but the teaching to the kids' strengths, identifying and addressing the working memory, processing speed, attention issues, and dealing with the visual auditory processing issues are
And
rarely
helping
done.
parents.
And helping you be the coach to navigate your child needs are rarely the focus of schools. And in our sense, what Mira's developed is really a program that encompasses the whole kid. And her father was a great musical conductor. We tend to look at her as the educational conductor who brings together the whole symphony.
We're a bridge from home to school. So, what are some of the ways that we can tell you that are low cost in so many ways, meaning even cost and expended in energy? All right, this may be the hardest. Be calm, be calm, be calm. Let me
As a
tell you
recovering
about.
screamaholic, okay, I can tell you that I used to yell, and maybe too often. But the day a client called us and said, that stuff you taught my daughter? Well, I tried it on myself and it works. So I tried it on my son that night. We were doing algebra. He got stuck on the third problem. Normally, I might have gotten a bit upset, but I just said, Mike, if you need to chill, go to your room, come back when you're ready. He looked at me
Not
like
as
I
a
had
not as a
horns.
punishment, but just as a
Right.
place to be able to
He
zero.
came
Right.
back 31 seconds later. We got the homework done and we're on our second ping pong game before Mira and the girls came back from the grocery store.
Right.
The key was I learned to stay calm. Now, I'll admit, I once did it for 108 straight days, and on the last day, I wound up hitting the golf balls a long way again.
Right.
But
So
you
let's
could,
just remember that as a visual person, what we are looking at is that we mirror, and I am that visual. I am that visual kid. Is that when when we say this piece about being calm, yes, we all know that that you're anxious and you're probably even mad on the inside. But to the best of your knowledge, that fake it till you make that the idea that being able to show and mirror so that your child can mirror that difference can make all the difference in the world. Now, this next one isn't new. You probably keep hearing it about scheduling 20 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week, to be able to sit and read with your child. Now, the challenge becomes, oh my goodness, how can I possibly? And I remember being a teacher before I had kids, and I'm thinking, how do parents not have 20 minutes? We all know we'd all give anything to have 20 minutes. But the truth really is that whatever amount of time and 20 minutes is our goal. And if you put that in your schedule, that you have that as that non negotiable, even if it's before this doesn't necessarily mean that your child is doing all of the reading or that you're doing all of it. But what it is use that time. I almost want to make it sort of as reading discussion time, as language building time, because the calculations are if you do 20 minutes of reading a day for an entire year, it manifests itself in How
2
many?
million words. 2
2
million more words a
million
year
more words a year than you normally would have had if you'd just been
doing the normal stuff.
doing the normal stuff, watching YouTubes, having your kids watch TV. So, truly sort of read with passion and emotion, get silly, get crazy, move around. But more than anything, discuss what you read. But do me a favor and try and change your language a bit from "Do you understand what we are reading?" to "What do you think the character is wearing? How tall do you think they are? Where are they? What would it feel like if we were there?" Try to be able to imagine that you are truly jumping into the book, because that's really what reading is about. And remember, for our right brain struggling readers, those words on a page are anything but fun, and they're almost a verse. So be able to make sure that those reading that reading is coming alive. We happen to love being able to use the audio book program called Learning Ally, which most of our children that are having reading difficulties will qualify for. As a 3D learner student, or if you need to contact us about how we can help you get that Learning Ally membership, we're more than happy to help you. But the thing that I love most about it is that it's the human voice that's reading the stories. You can change the speed, but you can also follow along. It's highlighted, so it gives kids the ability to be able to listen and to really take in what the language is and what the words are, that are going across the page.
And the
This
other
last
point
one's really go ahead.
is collaborating with teachers and schools. And we added know the numbers. So often parents ask, "How's my kid's reading?" And the teacher will say, "He's reading at the fifth grade level. He's in fifth grade," which sounds good. But the problem is schools use reading as the reading fluency, and you want to know both how where their reading fluency is, which is how smoothly they read, and what their comprehension is, where the comprehension is really the key.
Right,
We've
and the other
actually
piece
had
that's sorry, Mark, well, the
4
other piece
years
that's
difference.
right. Go ahead, sorry.
We've had kids with 4 years differential in fifth grade, where their reading was at fifth grade level and their comprehension first. And we've had ninth graders where their reading comprehension was the reading fluency was the ninth grade level, and the reading fluency was the second grade level. So you want
Comprehension.
to make sure you know both numbers.
Right. The other thing that's quite important to know is that so many schools are now going to the computerized options of iReady, and then teachers will give you the scores on that, of which they have now sort of standardized to be able to make it. You still really want to understand sort of what that means. Okay, so if my kid is a 420, what does that mean about where they're supposed to be, and sort of what that being able to get it so that you're not so far out of where the neurotypical child is really is, because the further behind you get, the more anxiety,
And,
the
and,
more other difficulties you
and
have.
a real minor point, but for a child in third, fourth grades who got a level 1 or 2 in public schools or charter schools in Florida, they actually qualify for a uh,
Money.
reading $500 reading scholarship, and that's now this year been extended to anybody who's got a significant reading deficit in grades K to 5. So
Right.
again, contact we're providers for that service too, and we can help.
So this waiting until kids are third and fourth grade is no longer. If your children are struggling in kindergarten and first and second grade, please make sure that you discuss with your teacher what you can do to be able to help. And they Yeah, we start by talking about, yes, I know all of us were reading with our kids when they were infants, and we keep reading with them, but it turns out that that actually happens to be sort of the number one, two, and three issues: playing with words, um, but also following and nursery rhymes, creative kinds of words, or creative kinds of stories. But making sure that you can get that piece in is going to pay off in lots of ways. So, when we talk about reading comprehension and igniting this love for learning, it's so disheartening for me to be able to have us see kids that are just even starting out in school in kindergarten and first grade that just want to give up because they feel so far behind. So, well, it's important to be able to understand then, okay, how do you define what outrageous success looks like? And one of the areas is to, as we've talked a little bit about, is identify some of your kids' amazing abilities and gifts. Maybe they're really great with animals, or they're sweet with younger kids, or maybe they're really great at building mm, at building Legos or building puzzles. Maybe that's a difficulty, but the point, and understand that too. Um, can you go back?
Yep.
Thank you. Right, but it's really important to be able to make sure that you find something, even if it's swimming, whether it's whatever it happens to be, and capitalize on them. And then, you know what? Call us. I'll be glad to help you through. Maybe if they're really good runners, we can start to be able to think about how you have conversations while you're running or doing spelling.
Or there's some great books about great runners. Okay,
Right.
books about horses. When we talk about instilling a love for learning, if I have to read about a camel in Egypt, okay,
Or one more Pokemon, right?
okay. But if I'm going to read about the Yankees, or somebody else is going to read about the Green Bay Packers, or somebody else is going to read, all the fiction books, it matters more that you engage the kid at first. Okay, you get to harder stuff later, but engagement up front,
and
and
where
making it
and
fun for them.
and where they're at, right? Have them pick out words. Right? If they're looking for their favorite team, have them see how many times it appears on a page. Have them do some searching about the fact you read that, and really sort of make it a fun and exciting event and a successful piece, before they go off to bed.
And one of the moms said recently, she said, "You coach parents on how to be the coach and advocate their child needs. Why doesn't everybody do that? We'll never understand it." Okay, it is one of the things we had to learn,
Right?
and we had to unlearn a lot because we'd hear from what advocates would say, but we realized that building bridges with your child's teacher is worth its weight in gold. And we have a daughter who's now a teacher, and the stress these people are under is probably the highest it's ever been. So when they have a parent that comes in and talks about, we're trying to really help our kid improve their comprehension, ignite a love for learning, okay, that's music to their ears.
Right.
Okay.
So a few minutes ago, I talked about our really great leaders and really great people that truly made the difference. Yes, your child may be the next Walt Disney, or the next sport, or the next movie star, or maybe the next um, prime minister of England somewhere. But what we want you to check about is, does your child have a really creative imagination? Sometimes too creative that they figured out how to take things apart. Maybe not put them together exactly the way, but they probably have a better way to put it back together as well. Let's remember that, Edison may not, Thomas Edison's picture may not be on this one. We have a lot of different ones, but we talk about the fact that Thomas Edison didn't fail 10,000 times before he found the way to be able to make the light bulb. He found 10,000 different things to be able to do beside, as well as be able to then invent the light bulb. So remember, your kids need manipulatives, needs pictures. Wow, when I first started, we didn't have Google, and I have to tell you that Google Pictures helps me tremendously and can help you as well. When your kids are having a really difficult time understanding language or understanding words, yes, I know a number of us are always told to be able to go to a dictionary. And yes, do we need to be able to help kids with dictionaries? But more than anything, we need to be able to have them go to what I call a picture dictionary, to be able to help them understand what words mean, what phrases mean, what backgrounds. It will help tremendously. Remember, I said sort of get your kids involved so that they feel like they're in it. That's what language should be. It really should be that. One of the more interesting um, things that we found out about kids over the thousands of calls that we've had over the last 27 years is, when we've asked parents about their children's memory, they're like, oh, my child has a really weak working memory, but wow, do they remember where they were, like where they were, what places we were when they were really little? How is that even possible? Well, that's that movie in their head, remember? That's that experiential memory. So we need to be able to feed that memory quite a bit and be able to have them have experiences, whether they are actual experiences or whether we give them the experience through conversation, language, and pictures online. Because,
And,
go ahead.
and obviously, being actively involved in the learning process is just critical for these kids. And we so often hear at a school meeting, you can't expect this child to make more than a year's gain in a year's time. I mean, this kid has a disability, and we look at we look at them and go, that's why you're doing what you're doing, and why we're doing what we're doing, because we've seen kids make 2, 3, and even 4 year gains of reading comprehension within months, not years, and these kids are a lot smarter. And this, by the way, includes gifted kids. We've had a number of gifted kids who might be operating at the 50th or 58th percentile who
So
wind
they're
up behind,
passing.
who they're passing and they don't qualify for anything. But their parents recognized that there was a huge discrepancy between where they were performing and their potential, and we were able to help them. We've had kids now go to Harvard, MIT, NYU, University of Chicago, whose parents were told to be more realistic. We're realistic within a certain realm. We just happen to believe their potential is so much higher,
Right.
and that our job is to help them realize it. And as you're looking at various things, look at the whole child. These are just 10 of the things you might evaluate when looking at a program. Okay. But recognize that if you hit all 10, as we do in our program, okay, the ability to succeed is far greater. Because think about it, I'm going to teach you a certain program that assumes you have a good working memory because you're going to be hit with a lot of rules. And this kid's got a weak memory, working memory. Or you're asking him to read stuff, but his eyes don't read the words in order. So in the blog post we're going to share, okay, there's a link to a page that shows a physograph where we look at the eyes before and after treatment. And it shows one kid whose eyes were just literally jumping around. And that's not uncommon for these kids. It turns out right brain kinesthetic learners tend to look at the world out here and don't have the skill naturally to focus on the written word. Is a skill they have to acquire.
I keep saying over and over, reading was definitely not meant to be sort of a human trait. Remember, it's manufactured. It's only about 5,000 years old. So, we have to be able to, our human brain had to accommodate.
And just cover this one quickly. When people tell you, don't worry, your kid will catch up, it's not it's not what normally happens. This one shows that a child who's struggling with word identification in first grade has almost a 90% chance of being a poor reader in fourth grade. This one says a third grade with a reading disability has a 74% chance of having the same reading disability in 12th grade. And this one shows that 45% of the kids with learning disabilities in secondary school are reading 3 to 5 years behind, and an additional 21% are reading 5 or more years behind. Okay, so it's really incredibly important for parents to take hold of the issue and help your child not either close the gap or reach their full potential.
So remember how before I said something about success breeds success? Well, us visual right brain kinesthetic learners need to have that aha moment in order to be able to build on, oh, I get it, that light bulb moment. And we've all seen it in our kids one way or another. And it breaks our heart when we see that it almost looks that they're pretty dim, that they really don't have that. So our goal is to have our child, okay, um, have be that get that I can attitude. We, as Marcus said, sort of, when people tell you that things that they can't do, say thank you very much and then figure out a way that they can do it, because they can and they
And
will.
actually, some of our most successful clients have been those parents who've been told to accept the status quo and they flat out rejected it.
Right. Right. Make sure that you understand your entire assessment process and find a team of professionals, like all of us, that all work together for the same goal of being able to have your child be all they can do. Even in the professional world, we've come across a number of people that have said, we just don't think that that there's that sort of horsepower that's going to happen. So you need to be able to make sure that you find the professionals that you can work with, that your child can work with, and there is that sort of synergy and energy that makes it possible for them to be able and them to be able to be successful.
And you can visit our website, 3dlearner.com, with some strengths, weaknesses. We suggest you um, watch it, our presentation on the YouTube channel, and go around the YouTube channel. We're trying to make that a really valuable resource for parents.
We've
And
been
we
doing
can't,
this for a number of months now, so there are
right.
lots of different topics that we've hoped that that you will enjoy. And if you don't see one that meets your needs, please don't hesitate to contact us and see what we can do about talking about them.
And then you can reach us again at 561-361-7495, or on the book now page on our website. And join us next week. We're going to talk a bit about math. It turns out on the recent tests, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, it showed that the math scores dipped a lot. And we've actually had a number of students who just built a math phobia. They just hated math this year for the first time. And we've helped them get over that hump. So I'm going to talk about next week how to ignite that love for math again. And maybe if your son's name, let's say, is Brett, we changed their names to Inspector Brett, so the kid learns how to not only do this math work, but check their work. And join us next Tuesday night, November 8th, same time, same place. Have a fantastic week. And
Thanks for joining us.
put your child on their pathway from stress to outrageous success.
Bye bye.